A course about pharmacokinetics would not be complete if we didn't talk about pharmacokinetic models, specifically mathematical models. What do we mean by a model? A model is a simplification of reality that we construct in order to describe something, summarize data, understand the world, predict what is going to happen, or explain and communicate ideas to others. For example, we can create a map using data linked to geographic location, which creates a visual image that is much easier to understand than tables of numbers. Also, once we have constructed a model, we can use it to predict what might happen in the future based on specific assumptions, like in the figure at the bottom in the middle, which shows predictions of global temperature over time. Finally, we use simple conceptual models like the one shown on the bottom right-hand corner all the time to explain ideas to others. You will notice that there are many different types of models, some of them qualitative, others quantitative. Some models are conceptual and simply describe an idea. Others, like architectural models, are actual physical constructs that can be touched and manipulated, whereas others are just two-dimensional pictures. But in all models, some of the details are removed to make them tractable and useful. The type of model that is commonly used in pharmacokinetics is a mathematical model, which uses equations to describe data and predict outcomes based on numerical inputs. The advantage of mathematical models is that they are precise, can be used to make predictions and ask what-if questions by changing the inputs or extrapolating, and they are helpful to simplify and solve large, complex problems. They also allow us to identify patterns in data that are not always obvious due to experimental noise. So with so many different types of models to choose from, how do we decide which one to use? It comes down to a single, very important question. For what are we going to use the model? Pharmacokinetic models are used to summarize and describe experimental data, identify patterns in sometimes noisy data, understand and explain how a drug moves through the body of an animal, and predict what plasma drug concentrations will be given different scenarios like dose or animal physiology. Mathematical models are particularly suited to this purpose because we can simplify a complex process into a mathematical equation that describes the data and can be used to predict outcomes if inputs vary. But we always start with a conceptual model of what is happening and then translate that conceptual model into mathematical terms. Conceptually, most pharmacokinetic models simplify the body and how the drug moves through it by grouping tissues into compartments, which are groups of organs and tissues in which drug distribution is similar. The number of compartments included in the model is dictated by what is needed to accurately describe the data, but it is very rare for a classical pharmacokinetic model of plasma drug concentration data to have more than 3 compartments. If we do need to break the body down into compartments to describe the pharmacokinetic data, you will notice that tissues are typically grouped together based on their blood perfusion. For example, if there is more than one compartment, the highly perfused tissues like heart, liver, lungs, and kidneys are most often grouped together with blood because drugs have similar distribution patterns in these tissues. Drugs may distribute differently to more poorly perfused tissues or tissues that are protected by a barrier like the blood-brain barrier, so sometimes these tissues are separated out into different compartments. Regardless of which model you choose to describe your pharmacokinetic data, the value ultimately lies with whether it does a good job of predicting drug concentrations at the site of interest, which we acknowledge is the receptor, although we commonly assume that plasma concentrations are a good proxy. So to paraphrase Einstein, the best model is the simplest model that gets the job done. If there is no need to add an additional compartment, don't do it.